I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have lots of things to cover today. But my name is Kaylin. I am the product manager of SimpleConsign. And I have lots and lots to show you today. So we're just going to steam on ahead. We're going to start on this checkout screen. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll look at them a little bit later after we've gotten through everything. But here on the checkout screen, we have added in an option here for you to show and hide the SKU and the consigner at checkout. So as you're entering items in here, let's go find an item. Sneak peek a different feature. Let's paste it in here. So you can see the SKU and the consigner. And if you want to hide one or both of those, you can do so by clicking on these three dots up here in the header. And you can hide both of those. If one of them's not of interest of you or to you, then you can hide it, or you can show it up to you depending on your preferences for your store. So that's the first one. The goal here is just to make it as suitable as possible for the different store types we have. I know vendor malls have different needs than traditional consignment stores. So if you care about making sure that the consigner is exactly right, that's something you want to double check, especially if you're entering inventory at checkout on the fly. Making sure the consigner is visible will be important. And the SKU is, of course, going to be very important. If all of your inventory is pre-entered, you want to make sure, especially if the tags may be damaged or you're searching for something, you want to make sure that you've got the right SKU pulled up. So you can customize that as you see fit. And then we'll go over to the admin tab here. Here's another really big checkout feature, and it's a price display feature. This is very important for some of our stores out on the West Coast who are required to display the prices of items as they're being rung up to customers. Excuse me. And the way that we've done this is by creating the ability to pair a secondary device with your terminal in SimpleConsign. So you can configure these settings by clicking on the settings gear there on that widget. And you can change the display name and to the welcome text, things like that, as well as what information is shown on the display. So whether you've got your customer information, reward points, and store credit available for them to use at checkout. And then you can adjust the behavior, how quickly you want it to clear and such, as well as viewing all of the devices that you've connected to this terminal. So this is a terminal by terminal feature. There's a preview display button up here, so you can see what that display will look like before you even connect a device. And you can edit this text and then view those changes as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pair price display. You get a QR code, and the intention is for you to use a device like a tablet to scan this QR code, and then you display that tablet to your customers so that they can see their transaction while it's being rung up. For ease of demonstration, I'm just going to copy this link, and I'm going to open up a new tab and paste it, and that'll pair this tab to that terminal. And then we'll use this fancy new feature from Google Chrome for split view. That way we can see both at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of there and go back to our checkout screen and cancel out of our existing transaction just to get everything reset. And now when I scan that, let me go back and get a SKU. Now when we go scan an item at checkout, you'll see that that populates on this price display and surfaces to the customer all of that same information, how much the item rang up for, the SKU, the item information, as well as the running total and the total for that item itself. Then if I was to go to complete this transaction, actually before I do that, let me add customer. Who do we have in here? We've got Peter. Let's see, Peter Parker. Let's close out of our note pop-up. And you can see that I've got that Peter Parker account connected up here, and I can see how many reward points I have. And so when I go and complete that transaction, I have no available credit, which is why none is displayed here. Now when I complete this, let's see. Oh, and the tax was removed because I have this customer marked as tax exempt in the system. That is why the price of the transaction changed. So let's go ahead and complete that. You'll see that it's completed the transaction, and and surfaces the total in nice big font. And then after 10 seconds, according to the settings, this will completely clear out. You can't hear me. Uh-oh. Can everyone else hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Tim, it may be an issue on your side, but the webinar will be recorded. So if you are having technical difficulties, you'll be able to go back and watch it, which you can't hear me say. Caroline or Sabrina, can you pop that in chat for her, just in case she can't hear me
Yes,
say?
I'll do that now.
All right. So that's that price display feature. Again, this is expected to be used with a tablet, but it is a web-based app, so you can use it with a secondary laptop. But we do strongly recommend that tablet device, a dedicated tablet per terminal for displaying price display information. I'm going to close out of this tab since we don't need it anymore, and we'll move on to the next feature. All right, we are in the checkout side. So let's go check out the consignment tab. And you may have noticed some things looking different over here when I went to grab a SKU. We have put a background around the SKU to make it pop a little bit better. And something that we run into quite frequently while demoing, and that I ran into when I worked in store using SimpleConsign some number of years ago, was trying to copy the SKU for one reason or another, whether I wanted to use it at checkout or wanted to go search for it in reports or something like that. There's an awful lot of clicks needed to be able to copy the SKU. So we added this copy button here to make that easier. So you can just click that, and then you've got your SKU copied, and you can go use it wherever you'd like. So reduce the number of clicks needed there. Previously, you'd have to click into the item and then come up here and then copy it. And that just seemed like too much work. We've also added a copy SKU button here again, so you don't have to do all of the clicking needed to highlight this and then copy it. So hopefully that's a small improvement that will make things a little bit easier and faster for people. And we've got a really fun one over here in account activity as well. Let's go to Christian's account. And we're going to go to account activity. Now I am in the new interface. So I want people to be aware of how to get to this screen. Some of you might have a screen that looks more like this. This is an older stylization of SimpleConsign, and we're adding new features to the new interface. So you can go there by, on the consignment tab, there's this try it out link up here at the top. And if you click that, it'll flip you over. And then the primary thing that's changed is that you've got all of this extra room for the consignor information. And the account activity, instead of being in the top right corner, is now here in this section instead. So you can flip back and forth between inventory and account activity. And that has some challenges where now you can't view the account activity and the inventory at the same time. So what we've done to resolve that is add these fills or these backgrounds and tagged information for each of the lines in your account activity to make it easier to tell what's going on, where these entries came from. So whenever it's the sale of an item, we will post the SKU there, and then the SKU is clickable, so you can click into it and view that item's history and click around to wherever else you'd like to be looking at information for that item. If you are using monthly fees in the consignor profile, anytime the system deducts that amount, we'll tag that with the monthly fee, and then you'll be able to see that where that came from. It does look previously an awful lot like a manual account adjustment, so we've separated that out. And now account adjustments will have a different label, and you'll be able to see which user created that adjustment. So previously, you'd have to run custom reports in order to see this information. And now we just surface it to you all in one place. So it's at a glance, you can see exactly what's going on. All right. That one is a feature that I'm very excited about. That should make things a lot easier to tell. Like I said, at a glance, where those account entries came from. And if you have online sales, if you're connected to Shopify via our integration, there's a label for that as well. Right. We have a long-awaited feature, one that's been heavily requested, which is the ability to archive an account rather than delete it. So archive will serve as a way to hide that account from your active list of consigners or vendors. And you can always restore that account, but it makes it clear in the system that this is someone who's not actively participating in your consignment or vendor mall process. So if we double click in, let's see, 1 second. I think I have something I have to flip on my end. While I'm doing that, does anyone have any questions so far? Anything that we should go back and cover? Okay, I don't see any questions. And I think, let's go check out Kevin again. Nope. All right. We'll come back to this later. But the purpose of archived, like I said, is to hide that account while still giving you access to the information. We've got the show archived checkbox here. So by default, any archived accounts will not display in your search, which means that if you have, you know, 10 people who are archived, they won't display. If you want to search for everyone, active and archived accounts, you just check this box, and then you can search for everyone. But that'll clean up your list, make it easier for, if Susan moved away, you can archive her account. If she comes back, you can always unarchive it. This is the account archive feature. So this is specifically for being able to archive consignor accounts. So instead of being able to delete the account, you would first have to archive it, and then you can delete it after that. So it's a middle phase where you can still see the information before it gets deleted. And it follows the same rules as deleting. So they need to have no payoutable balance, and they need to have no sellable inventory. I see this question an awful lot on Facebook of how do you clear out someone's account. So let's go ahead and do that. This isn't a new feature, but it is something that's relevant for the account archive. So I'm going to go ahead and show it off as well. So if you go into a specific person's account, you can select their inventory. You'll see that it'll only select the items that are in stock. And we've got 52 items, so we show 20 a page. So I'm going to go through 2 more pages and select all at the top. And then this is all of the inventory that remains in this account. I'm now going to change the status to returned, and this status indicates that these items have been returned to the consignor or to the vendor. It's no longer in the store's possession. So once I submit these changes, this account, as long as the balance is not payoutable, would then be able to be archived, or if it's already been archived, then be deleted. So if we look here, we can see here's a much more restricted list of inventory. And that's because all of those items, the system considers old items now since they have been returned to the consignor. If you want to be able to see them, just check the show old items box and they reappear before your eyes. And you can see that there's a whole bunch of other items that were hidden in here just to make it easier for you to find what we think you're looking for. So if you ever can't find anything, try that show old items box. And instead of going through and trying to delete all of the inventory after a consignor or vendor has left you, I highly recommend using that return status and that bulk edit there. See a question about making it easier to see more than 20 items. That is a good bit of feedback. That is something that we have heard before, and we are working on ways that we can make this UI as powerful as possible. So I'll make sure that we have your requests there documented so that it's taken into consideration as we continue to make improvements to our system. Thank you so much. We can't make changes unless we know about it. So if you've got anything, a pet feature, something that's been bugging you, make sure that you share it with us so that we can take it into consideration as we're making changes. We love to hear feedback. All right. So there's that feature. So you can do the account archive. It'll be in the consigner profile. I'm in my test store. I think I've just got something funky going on. And we'll make sure that we've got that visible for you all and demoable before this goes out. Again, all of these things we're expecting to go out on March 9th next week. So we're giving you a preview before this goes out so that you have the chance to take this recorded webinar, talk with your staff about it, digest these new features that are coming out before they hit your screens on March 9th. All right. Here's another really cool, really big, powerful feature, which is the account merge feature. And this is available in the customer tab. So if we click account merge, now this is available to only admins, I believe. So don't worry, your cashier who works 10 hours a week is not going to be able to come in here and do a bunch of damage, assuming that you've got their user account set up properly. A quick recap on those user accounts. We do strongly recommend that the majority of your users are set up as cashier level users without back office access. That will restrict them away from the settings and lots of business information that they don't necessarily need to have access to. You can then set up managers, team leads, and administrators to be able to do things that require more permissions in the system. So you can give them access to the back office, give them access to settings, reports. If you're on the Pro plan or have the add-on, you can give them access to the Store Insights app, which is kind of like a Tamagotchi version of your store. So highly recommend that you do an audit of how you have your user permissions set up. And every person should have their own user account so that if something happens, we're able to identify which user did what. And you can also restrict specific users if you need to for whatever reason. So in the account merge tool, it's not uncommon for people to accidentally have multiple accounts. Maybe someone got married and they forgot that they had an old account under their old name, and now they've got two accounts, and then you've got two different things that you're trying to keep up to date and keep track of. We've resolved that by allowing you to merge their accounts. So because every consigner also has an attached customer account, you can search for people in here. So let's do Bugs Bunny. We've got Bugs Bunny's information pulled up on the left here. The account on the left will be the account that's kept. And the account on the right, I don't know, let's see. Maybe we've got, let's pull Freddie Mercury in here. Why not? And if we wanted to flip these accounts, say we got them backwards, we can just click these double arrows right here and it'll flip which one gets kept and which one gets deleted. If there's any contact information over here that might get overridden and you want to make sure that you keep it, you can manually type it in over here. And if there's any consigner accounts, you'll be able to see all of them listed on either side. We've got this candy striping here to make it very visually clear that this is the account that will be merged and deleted. So any customer and consigner accounts that are connected to this person will be merged over. So if Freddie over here had a consigner account at a different location, they would be combined, and then the account on the left would have all of those consigner accounts, all of that inventory, all of that history. So once you're happy with the situation that you've got going on here, you're going to go ahead and click next. And you're going to get a screen here that will just kind of reiterate everything that I've just said. It's making sure you understand which account will be merged and deleted, which one will be kept, and that this is permanently deleted and will no longer be accessible. So this is a very, very powerful feature. And with that comes a lot of little pieces that make it very hard for us to undo, which is why it's permanently deleted. So to make sure you're extra sure, we're going to make you type something very specific before you can complete the merge. And then once you've done that, you can click Merge Consigners, and you get a little celebration, and now your accounts are merged. So if we go to search for Freddie, you'll see that Freddie's gone. And if we go to search for Bugs, Bugs is still here. Yes, there will still only be one set of contact information. If two people want to merge their account, you'll need to combine that contact information. So there are two phone slots here. There is one address field and one email. So we've seen people handle this in a variety of ways. You can also do add a note to the account in order to add an additional name here that's searchable. But yes, it will still just be one set of contact information. Good question. Going through my list of features here, making sure I'm ticking off all of the boxes. I'm going to flip over to the back office here and settings, options. Here in general, I'm going to scroll down. We've got $0 retail at inventory entry. And we've got two options. We can either warn or block. So the goal of this feature is to let you know and either warn you in case this is intentional or fully block you if you know for your store that this is not intentional. That you have items that you're creating in that inventory batch that have a $0 retail price. So that will let you know, hey, you've got something that is potentially a mistake. Maybe you forgot to type in a price or you accidentally tabbed through it or it got overwritten. You'll be able to be alerted of that. So let's go create some inventory in here. Let's do not adjust account. Don't know why my brain told me to do that. Let's add a new item. And another cool feature that we have in here, we'll get to in just a moment. All right, I'm just going to do a couple of easy things. I'm going to use tab on my keyboard to move forward through the fields, use shift tab to move backwards. Now, if I leave this as $0 here, even though I have a buyer's fee making the overall price $1, the retail is $0. So when I click done, it's going to warn me and say, hey, you've got one item with a $0 retail price. Because I have mine set to warn, it's going to allow me to continue if I'd like to, or I can hit go back and fix that. So if I make this $10 instead, I can hit done. And now I've got that item. And I've been warned that I was about to create a $0 item. I see a question about the merge tool. If you have two stores, will this merge inventory and everything to the other store? No, so it'll keep all of the inventory within the specific locations if you've got a multi-location company. It'll just move all of that inventory and history to the same person, to the same account. If you're wanting to move inventory from one location to another, you'd want to use the inventory transfer feature, which is available on the inventory tab. So you'd go into a specific location and then you'd start your inventory transfer. And we have documentation about that available in the Help Center. And the support team's always happy to help with that. So if that's what your goal is, that's how you do that. Talked about that. We talked about retail. Okay. We have some new reports. Everyone's favorite thing is new reports, right? At least it's my favorite thing. I always loved looking through the reports when I was working in store. So we've got a new report that we're calling Consigner Sales Leaderboard. The way that this works is if you pick a specific day, let's look at the transaction tab and see when I have some transactions. Looks like I did a bunch of stuff on the 9th, so let's do that. 3-9, let's do 2-9. There we go. Now, while we view that report, what this is going to do is show me a summary of all of my consigners who sold items on that day or that date range. Tell me how many consigners, how many items were sold in the total sales, as well as a breakdown for each individual consigner or vendor. So if you've got maybe you've got an outdoor flea market that day, or you had a big sale, say maybe it's Black Friday, and you want to know who your most successful consigners or vendors were. You don't necessarily care about which specific items they sold. You just want a quick summary. This is the perfect report for that. And it will give you all of that summary information at a glance. So this is kind of a more condensed version of the consigner sales report, which if we ran for the same time frame, you'd be able to see how much more information is contained here. So we just condensed it down and made it easier to see who sold the most items and how much they sold them for. The next report we have is also very exciting. It's a donated items report. So what this does is if you have an item and you marked the item as donated status, which you can do either on the consignment tab here by selecting the item and using this drop down on the right, like we did before for returns. You'd select donated instead and submit your changes. You can do it that way, or you can do it on the inventory tab using the bulk inventory edit. You would scan or paste your SKU in here, and then you would change the status to donated and submit. So if you did that to your inventory throughout the year and you want to be able to find items that were specifically made that status transition from another status to donated during a certain time frame, that's where this donated items report will come in handy. So if we do year to date, so let's do this, and we'll run this report. I haven't donated any items, so let's actually go do that. So if I go donate this item, submit, and run the report again, we can see that that item has been donated and all of his information about it. So in donating it, we reduced the quantity by 1. Here's the price that it was, the user who completed that action, and when it was done. And then this is exportable in case you need to use it for any record keeping purposes. So that's a report that we get asked about quite a bit. People want to know when their items were donated, if they were donated within a certain time frame. It's a very popular question this time of year, often having to do with accounting and taxes. So we've made that nice and simple for you. You've now got a report, or you will have a report next week that will make that super simple. All right. Another common question that we get, and one that is very astute, is, well, which of my categories have sold the best? And so that's category sell-through. This is available in a top 5 and bottom 5 format via the Store Insights app, which again is available on the Pro plan or as an add-on for your other subscription levels. But you can also run it, you will be able to run it for all of your categories here for a specific time frame. So if we view that report, now this is going to be churning through a ton of information. So this is a test store. I don't have a ton of sales in here. So your live stores, your brick and mortar stores being as successful as they are going to have a lot more transactions, a lot more data to churn through. So this is kind of a bigger report and may take a little bit longer to run. But what it's going to end up doing, let me zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see on my screen here, is what category, how many items were sold during that time frame, or excuse me, how many were available to sell, what the quantity was, and what quantity actually sold during that time frame, and therefore what your calculated sell-through rate is. So not to get too into the weeds here, but your sell-through is incredibly important. You don't want things to be selling too slowly. You don't want them to be selling too quickly. So this will allow you to make informed decisions about what types of items you're selling in your store, what you're accepting into your inventory, so that you can make informed stocking and pricing decisions. So if your sell-through is a little bit too fast, then you can adjust your price. Maybe you want to increase it, or make some other adjustment that slows down how quickly they're leaving your shelves, because you don't want everything to sell as soon as it comes in, because that indicates that the price is seen as a bargain, things like that. If your sell-through rate's too low, you might consider reducing how many items you're accepting in that category, or reducing the price to see if you can get those items to move off your floor a little faster. So this is going to be a very informative report to help you make decisions around inventory and stocking. If you've got issues getting enough inventory for a category that's particularly quickly, then you've got some inventory sourcing things, and we've got some information about that on our website if you're interested in finding additional ways to source inventory. Sales and transactions by day. So this one's really fun. It's very common for our stores to go through and record sales report information day to day, wanting to compare things. And we've made that a lot simpler. So if I click this date range, again, I'm going to do year to date, and I hit view report. Again, this is going through all of your sales information. So this is going to be another very thought-heavy report. But what we've done is we've combined your in-store sales and your online sales into one report. at a glance, so you can see each individual day. And again, because this is a test store, I'm not going to have transactions every single day, but you'll see where I've got those sales. All of that information is broken out by date. So it's at a glance, nice and easy to compare. You don't have to manually record this anymore, move it to a spreadsheet, and this is exportable, CSV, Excel, so you can pop that out and do whatever additional calculations you'd like to do. I know people, this has come up in conversation a lot on Facebook. We've gotten feature requests about that. We do read through every single one of those. So I hope y'all feel like you're being heard. It does take us some time to enact some of these changes, but this is one that was commonly requested, and we have provided this report as a result. All right. And then I think we have one more feature, and I think I have a little bit more magic I got to do behind the scenes in order to get it to work. Let's see. If anyone has any questions, now's a great time to pop them in the chat. I'm going to zoom back on out. And let's do store on inventory. That's a fantastic question. If it is two consignor accounts that are merged, will you be able to use the account number that was merged, or will it not let you use it? No, it will move all of that. All of those consignor accounts will have the consignor ID of the account that was kept. So if, let me flip out here. Let's pull up maybe Kevin over here. Let's pull up Brock. No. Who has a consignor account? Let's do this. All right. So here we've got Kevin on the left, who's got two consignor accounts. And on the right, we've got Christian, who's got two consignor accounts as well. The way that this is set up with the candy striping on the right, Christian is the account that would be deleted. And all of Christian's consignor accounts would inherit these consignor IDs. Because they have overlapping locations, all of the information in this first location and the second location would be combined into these existing consignor accounts. So that inventory, that balance, that history, all of that would get combined over there and then would be locatable under this consignor ID instead. If we'd prefer for it to be under this one, then we'd flip the accounts and make sure that we keep this. Or you can also go back and change the consignor ID after you've done the account merge as well. Great questions, y'all. Okay. So the last feature is this item name. And this item name, as you can see, it's got a red outline around it. That's letting you know that this is a required field. This field, we are removing the requirement on so that you don't have to put content into that field if you don't want to. This is meant to help encourage stores to feel comfortable putting the information in the appropriate fields. So you'll see if I go to my clothing category, I've got family group, brand, color, size. Often we'll see stores entering all of that information up here in the item name. And you removing that requirement for this field, you're free to be able to enter all of this data down here and not have to come up with something that gets added into that first text box. The reason that this is so important that you've got that data in the appropriate fields is that it's going to make it a whole lot easier for you to be able to report on different types of items that you've got in the system if you've got that data in the fields that we expect it to be in. It also makes it a lot easier for you to be able to use Shopify and such in the future if that's not something that you're already using. Having to go through and clean up a bunch of inventory items where the data is not in the places that you need it to be able to successfully sell online is not a hurdle we want you to have to jump through when you're trying to make that step for your business. So by encouraging you to enter this data into these fields, we're setting you up for success long term. You can still put whatever you'd like in here. So a common thing that I would do when I worked in the store is I'd put something like fringed leather, and let's do handbag, and maybe it's $27.50, and we'll do women as the family group. And again, I'm just using tab to move forward and shift tab to move backwards. If I want to uncheck this box, I can use the space bar. You can use the keyboard to navigate through the screen very, very quickly. So I'm going to start typing in for a brand. I'll use Calvin Klein and hit tab to move forward. Maybe it's brown, and maybe it's a crossbody. So entering inventory in this manner instead of what we'd see before, using my mouse again, I can do enter in order to create a new item with the keyboard. Something that we'd see is this, and something like crossbody. I cannot spell this morning. Forgive me. This is something that we would typically see because that item name was required. So because we've removed that requirement, feel free to enter that information down here. Like I said, that will set you up for success. And if you want your e-commerce title to display in exactly this order, we do have e-commerce title templates where we can take these fields and we can automatically put them in a specific order for you. So if you want that to behave in a certain way, you can do that. The support team can assist you with getting that set up. And then you can tab your way down, or you can click and enter your e-commerce item down here. Details specifically if you want to be able to be very specific about what information is displayed online as you're entering your inventory. Can you reuse, oh, this is a question about the merge tool. So let's go back again. Can you reuse the one that gets deleted? No, because that is deleted, that consignor ID is still stored in the system and you'll be blocked from being able to use it. I would recommend adjusting the consignor ID if you want to reclaim it before you delete the account so that you can then reuse that ID. Good question. If you are on sequential assigned IDs, the IDs will not be editable, but if you have that turned off, you can free enter whatever you'd like in the consignor ID field within limits. So I could put KB01 if I wanted to do initials and a number. I could do just a number. I could do just letters, however I'd like through there. Very good question, though. That ID is not reusable. Another question about merging. When merging an account, will the item attributes such as discounting or commission remain, or does it change to the account destination default? I am fairly sure that they remain. That is something that I'm going to have to go back and double check on, and I want to make sure I'm telling you the whole truth here. So I'll have to double check on it, and I'll make sure that we've got that documented included for when this feature goes live. I think we do have some documentation for it. This is a feature that we have been working on for quite a long time. So we have some stores who are using it as beta testers at this point. And so we do have some documentation available in the Help Center. You just have to search for Merge Tool. And it's got all of this information in here for you to be able to reference. I don't see any documentation answering the question that you asked, so I'll make sure that we get that added in there. All right, got that written down. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. I do have one more thing I want to show y'all. This is not, to be clear, is not coming out on the 9th with everything else. But it is a project that we have been working on, and I want to give you a sneak peek at it so you can see what's coming up next, or one of the things that's coming up. give you some time to anticipate this change. We are making a small UI change. This will set us up for success for future features that we want to add into the system. So there's no functionality change here. It's just a change in how the system looks. And it's relatively minor. Again, it's just these tabs at the top. So if we do a back and forth, just like at the eye doctor, a 1 and 2, you'll see that the tabs up here are no longer blue background. Let's go even to the same tab, 1 and 2. Same functionality, all of the tabs are in the same places. We've expanded the width of the information on the screen a bit, make it a bit easier to see. You can still zoom in if this is something that you do on a regular basis in our software. And again, there's no functionality change here. It's just a small visual change to make it easier for us to continue making improvements to the system. So not coming out next week, but it is something that is coming down the pipeline, something that we are continuing to work on and making it easier for us to add cool new things into the system in the future while modernizing our look a little bit. You can see which tab is actively selected because it'll have that blue text and that blue bar at the top. So a little bit of a nod to the previous, to the current UI, but this is a change that is coming along. This mostly looks like the new interface. Will the old interface eventually be retired? Yes, it will eventually be retired on the consignment tab. I believe this is what you're referring to. So we do still have that on the UI changes. But yes, eventually this view will be retired. If there's anything that's making you hesitant to try out the new view, please make sure that you submit that feedback so that we know and we can take that into consideration. But this will make it a whole lot easier for us to add some cool new features. This old interface, we were running into some space constraints. It's a lot more difficult for us to share as much information with you when we're confined to half of the width of the screen for the consigner and the account activity information, which is why we've done it the way that we've done it here. Is there a date for that retirement? Not at this time. Not for retiring the old interface. But this UI adjustment from here to here, this will be coming down the pipeline. And expect to see this change in the next several months. Like I said earlier, though, the majority of these improvements around account activity are going to be available only on the new interface. So they won't be available on the older interface. We just don't have the room for it. Good questions. Very, very good questions today. All right. Is there anything else that we should touch on? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I will make sure that this content is available for you to share with your team members, with your employees, anyone who couldn't attend. And like I said, this is to give you some time to be able to train your team on these changes before they go live early next week. Hey there, I wanted to share a couple more things you can expect to see here arriving in early mid-March. And the first is actually a feature removal that impacts very few of our customers. And it's impacting the payout screen. So here on payout, both bulk and individual, we have removed the ability to do payout cutoff by the expire date of the items that were sold. Instead, you'll be able to continue to do payout cutoffs by payment date or the date that credit hit the account. However, we have removed, like I said, the ability to pay out by expire date. The reason for this is it was blocking some progress on some other features and is a very rarely used feature that does not impact the vast majority of our customers. We have reached out to those that this does impact. If you have any additional follow-up questions, please reach out to our support team we are more than happy to help you with this transition. But again, we are removing the expire date cutoff from our payouts, both the individual and the bulk payout. So you'll see that that cutoff is just by payment date now, which is the date that that account activity hits the account and is contributing to their balance. The other thing I wanted to show off is here on the Reports tab on the Custom Customer Report. We've added a new field and a new filter. This is for the last purchase date for a particular location. And if you have a multi-location company, the last purchase date for that customer across all locations. So you can surface this using the fields, and you can filter out records by using the filter. So if you do a filter, you can say last purchase date is, or is before, or is after a specific date for a specific location, or again, for all locations in your company. This will allow you to build marketing lists for customers who've purchased recently, or for those who maybe haven't purchased in a longer time period, so that you can accurately market to people based off of what your goals are. So this is surfacing new information for you. It's a more fine-tuned way of doing your filtering rather than using the purchase total for 30, 90, a year, or all time. This allows you to pick a specific date. Have they made a purchase with us since then? And that's all I wanted to add on to our previously recorded webinar ahead of this next feature release.